Let's talk about campaign triggers in ProLine. Campaign triggers are probably the most important feature or aspect of ProLine when it comes to understanding how to configure, set up, and control what ProLine automates as projects and other activity move through your process in ProLine. And so we're going to, we can jump in here. One of the easiest ways to get to and start looking at campaign triggers is the stage 2 campaign triggers that are visible when you click on the gear icon on any stage. This is going to show you any triggers that have been set up for that stage. But there are 2 other types of triggers that I want to go over as well. And they're not, one of them is shown here on this page down at the bottom, and then one of them is not currently shown on this page. And so we are working to improve that and make it a little bit more transparent, but it is what it is for right now. So these right here are triggers. And at first glance, you might be pretty overwhelmed. You're like not sure what's going on here, and that's okay. Before I jump into explaining this, let's actually look at a kind of a diagram here so that you have an understanding of where triggers fall fundamentally in ProLine as a system. And to understand this, you do kind of have to know a little bit about the history of ProLine. So ProLine originally started out as a automation system, automated communication system that could be integrated with other existing CRM platforms. What we found, and that system is pretty much what you're seeing down here at the bottom of the page. So everything down here, campaigns, and then we had automated text messages and automated emails. This system of automations, along with our general communication system for calling and texting and emailing, is what made up the original ProLine platform. But what we found is that it was near impossible to connect that reliably to these other CRM platforms for a number of different reasons. Sometimes those platforms just weren't good. Sometimes they didn't have good APIs. And even if they did have good APIs, there was so much data that had to move between the CRMs and ProLine in order for it to function correctly that we ended up abandoning that and deciding that if we were going to fulfill the vision of automating communication end-to-end for contractors, we were going to need to be the entire system end-to-end, and we were going to have the CRM inside of ProLine. That way we avoid all the issues that come with integrations that we had previously. And so we made that decision in early 2023 and started working on ProLine CRM. And ProLine CRM is what you see up here at the top. This represents everything we've built since then. And relatively, this is really big. I think this graph probably doesn't do it justice. If we're talking about just complexity and breadth of features, the ProLine CRM is now a much bigger portion of what ProLine is than any of these other features. And so, or of the automation engine. Now, the automation engine is critical, but just want to give some comparative scale here. ProLine CRM is extremely powerful and robust. It's not an afterthought. It is the core platform now. And so we have ProLine CRM, and then we have the original system down here, which is campaigns. Let me just put maybe a little box around this just so that it's clear. And so if we do this, this is the original system, was this campaigns. And originally, like I described, we had these integrations. So we had like other CRMs out here that we were integrating with. We'll just say like other CRMs. And we had these kind of crazy integrations that would link the other CRMs to, let's see if I can find just like a crazy shape here. Yeah, we'll just do like a star. We had these crazy integrations that would like do all kinds of wild stuff to try to get these other CRMs to work properly with the ProLine automation engine, and it was kind of a mess. And so this was the original system. We have since abandoned that since it didn't work well, and we built our own CRM. And then what we still need is something that fills this role here of the integration. But since it's in one platform, we can now do that a lot more efficiently and a lot more cleanly than we could do it with the integrations. But the campaign triggers essentially fills this role. The campaign triggers are the integration between ProLine, the CRM, and ProLine, the automated communication system. And so that's what you're doing when you're editing these campaign triggers, is you're telling ProLine, okay, based on this project moving to a new stage, or this event getting scheduled, or this quote being sent, any of these actions that are going on the CRM end of ProLine, the campaign triggers are what is telling ProLine what to automate as far as automated communication and most of the other automations in ProLine go, what to automate based on those activities on the CRM side. So this campaign trigger replaces the need, or replaces or fills the role of this kind of crazy integration approach that we had with the other CRMs. And so we've now gotten rid of all of this. We don't need it anymore. And we now have the ProLine CRM and the campaign trigger system, which we're continuing to refine. Now, in its current state, there are 3 fundamental campaign triggers that are being used in ProLine today. There is the stage triggers, and stage triggers is what we just looked at. So we have, if we get a quote sent, we can look at these stage triggers. Stage triggers can be set up in sequential order. That's why we have numbers here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And ProLine will go down the list until it finds a trigger that matches the conditions that are set for it, for project type or services or tags or anything else that you put on here that you want to use to filter projects as they're entered into a stage. And then the first one that matches the project that has been moved to this stage, ProLine's then going to start that automated campaign for that project. And so here on quote sent, the use case is very clear, because you don't necessarily want to send the same follow-up communication to every single project. If a project is a retail roof replacement, you're going to want to send them maybe a standard roofing or roof replacement follow-up. But then if they're an insurance project, you're going to want to send them contingency, maybe a contingency follow-up if you do contingency agreements, or maybe you just have a separate series of messages for insurance projects that you're trying to sign. And then if it's not roofing, maybe you do some other projects on the side. You can have sort of a catch-all other follow-up that's for that. And then often we see that for commercial projects, people don't want those commercial projects getting follow-up. And so ProLine can be set up to just not start a campaign and stop any currently running campaigns instead. And so this is the stage triggers, and these are probably the most common triggers that are currently being used in ProLine. And they're really easy to access because you just click on the gear icon on any stage, and you can see the triggers that are associated with that stage. Now, one important thing to note is not only, like, you have to turn on the triggers for the stage. So if the stage triggers are turned off like this, then they're not going to run. So they do have to be enabled for the stage once you've added them. And then you also have an on-off switch on each individual campaign. So there's multiple layers here of being able to turn things on and off. And so once you set something up, just make sure that you have both the triggers turned on and all of the campaigns that you want turned on as well. One useful one reason that we have this multi-layer system is that what you can do is you can have campaigns turned off, but then the triggers turned on, which is going to still run the triggers and is going to queue up projects and contacts in the campaigns. And that way, when you turn the campaign on, it will have a backlog of people that are ready to start the campaign, and it's going to start all of those people that are in the backlog. If you don't want that behavior, you can turn off the triggers, and then ProLine will not queue up anyone in the campaigns. Now, if you want just everything to run as it would day to day, if you just want to turn everything on, you can turn on both the triggers and you can turn on the campaigns, and then ProLine's not only going to start the campaigns, but those campaigns will then run immediately rather than the projects and contacts going into a backlog. And so that's why we do have those multiple layers, because there's different behaviors that you want based on, like, when you're setting up ProLine versus when ProLine's being used day to day after you're done configuring it. And so that's the reason for that. So these are stage triggers, and these are going to be the most common trigger type. The other type of trigger is going to be this related events trigger. Well, it says related events trigger because it's shown here on the stage, but it's really event triggers. So we have event triggers, and event triggers are triggered by events, clearly, and they're used to queue up appointment reminders. That's the typical use case for these. And so when an event gets scheduled, you want to start an appointment reminder campaign where ProLine is going to send messages at intervals before the start of the campaign or of the event. And so it can be used to remind someone of an upcoming event they have scheduled with your company, as well as remind maybe the member of your team that's assigned, and then also to do any other actions that you want to run when an event is scheduled. For example, creating a company cam is often put into like a inspection reminders campaign because most companies don't want ProLine to create a company cam project unless that lead has had an appointment scheduled. So rather than doing it for every lead that comes into your ProLine account, because a lot of those are garbage, and rather than clogging up your company cam account, most companies want to wait, and only the ones that have been pre-qualified and then scheduled are the ones that get sent to company cam. And so this is a pretty common thing we see is having the company cam step here. And so that's the other type, is event triggers. Now, unlike stage triggers that are completely configured here, the related event triggers can't be edited here. They are edited on the company settings page under events. So you would go to the specific event, for example, inspection, and here not only are you setting the campaign, but you're also setting the stage that the project gets moved to. And this is actually what's causing this, the stage selection here is what's causing it to show up as a related event trigger, because ProLine is seeing, oh, this event is set to start this campaign and it's going to move projects to this stage. So we're going to show it as a related event trigger here on the triggers page for the stage. And so we'll just take a look at that one more time, make sure there's nothing I'm forgetting. Yeah, so you start the campaign, you select the campaign you want to start for the event, and then also the stage. And this is unique to each event type in your account. So that's actually one of the fundamental reasons we have event types, is to be able to differentiate and have different triggers for different events. So now let's look at the third campaign trigger type. So the third type is integration triggers, and these are the tricky ones that can be kind of confusing because we don't currently show them on this stage triggers area, even though they are a trigger. It's something that we want to fix. We want to have a centralized place that you can see all triggers, but for right now, it does not show there. And there's no centralized place for integration triggers either. And the reason for that is because it's controlled by each individual integration. So if you go to this integration page, one example is going to be the web leads integration. So you can use the web leads integration to connect a web form on your website to create leads in ProLine automatically. And a really big part of this is selecting a campaign that is a speed to lead campaign that's going to immediately send emails and text messages and other communication to each new lead as it comes into your ProLine account. You're also going to select a stage and anything else that you want set for those incoming projects and contacts. And so this is an example of another trigger. It looks a little bit different than the other trigger types that we've looked at, but this is still a trigger. It's a campaign trigger. It's triggering one of ProLine's campaign automations. And this is not alone. So we have also on web forms, you're selecting a campaign to start, and then also for most other integrations. So it depends, but anything that's putting projects and contacts into your ProLine account is going to have these triggers. So Roof Quote Pro is a great example where you're going to select a campaign that you want to run when projects are added into the account from this integration. And I'm looking for other ones. I think Roof Quote Pro, Angie does this as well. So the Angie integration is going to start a campaign that you select, and then web leads and web forms. So that's actually the 4 that will trigger campaigns. Yeah, so these 4 will trigger campaigns, and then you're also setting the stages as well. And then the last one, so those are the 4 native integrations that will trigger campaigns, but the last and really big one here is Zapier. So Zapier is there's a number of different Zapier actions, and if you're unfamiliar with Zapier, Zapier is and it uses the ProLine API key. And just in case anyone gets any good idea, any fun ideas, this API key will get changed after this call. But the ProLine API, that's how you link ProLine to Zapier. You put in your API key into Zapier, and then Zapier is a platform that automates different platforms together regardless of whether they're already integrated. So it's a fantastic tool. Highly recommend. It's a little on the pricey side, can be on the pricey side, but they have like a free version too. And you can connect ProLine to Zapier, and then you can connect almost any other software in the world to Zapier as well, and then you can create custom integrations between them. And so we have a number of different actions, and we can just search for this. We can search for ProLine. There's a number of different actions here that will start campaigns in ProLine. You can use the creator update contact, though that's going to be potentially depreciated soon. The creator update project will start campaigns. The create or update event via event triggers will start campaigns. And I think that might be it. Yeah, it's going to be just those 3, unless I'm missing. Let me see. Yeah, it's just creator update project, and that's it. So that covers the integration triggers. So these 3 trigger types are the 3 different ways that you can control how the ProLine CRM features start and stop automations and automated campaigns in ProLine. And that pretty much covers it end to end. Hopefully that helps. It is definitely a confusing concept, so if you are running into any problems or if you're confused, please do reach out to ProLine support. We're definitely happy to help. But that should give you a pretty good high-level rundown of how those triggers work inside of ProLine.